Well, hey there, welcome. This is an Ignite Press book launch livecast, and I'm excited because, as you can see, I've got a special guest here with me today, George Demaree, and he has just written, we have published, and we are now launching the Sales Sweet Spot: Proven Principles to Prosper in Sales and Sales Leadership. Now, before I get to George here, I just want to let you know that we here at Ignite Press specialize in helping people bring their book messages to the world. And if you've got an idea for a book, please reach out to us at ignitepress.us. That's ignitepress.us. All right. Well, George, congratulations. Today is the day. This is the culmination of at least a couple years of work for you. And I think it would be great if you can start by just telling everybody a little bit about you, a little bit about your background and then it will take us into this book.
Well, I would love to. Yes, you're correct. It's been almost 2.5 years. It's been on my bucket list for a while, and I started. Actually, I started my career at newspaper in the circulation department years and years ago as a kid, and went to work for the top rated radio station in the market with no experience at all, just thrown out there, and discovered that I grew a passion for it. I grew a passion for sales. I grew a passion for helping my customers. Once my customers started seeing some results, then um, what was once a job became a career. So I've spent a lot of time, some trial and error, but there are certain things that work for most everybody who is interested in being successful in sales and also in sales leadership. I actually spent most of my sales career as a sales leader. I was only as a sales rep for about a little over 6 years, and was promoted to a sales manager and a general sales manager, and I led up until I decided to leave the radio station about 6 years ago, and now I'm the COO of a large church in Louisville, Kentucky.
Incredible. I'm excited about this book because, and you and I haven't talked about this, but my dad was a traveling salesman, and he had a territory that was the majority of the state of California. He came in and opened up this territory for W. Granger, big industrial supplier, and so I got to watch him and learn a little bit about sales from him, and it was a joy. And then this book you have dedicated to your dad. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I didn't prepare you for this, but tell us why you dedicated this book to your dad.
My father was my best friend prior to him passing away. I could give you 100 stories, only tell you one. Um, there was a time when I was in college that I didn't do my very best one semester. I had to go to summer school. And he allowed me to use his car during summer school, and he took the bus to work. And in the book, I share that I love my children, and there's very few things that I would not do for my three very successful children. Two in medical sales, one medical equipment, and one for the pharmaceutical, and my daughter who's an OBGYN doctor and surgeon. So there's a lot I would do for them, but giving them my car and me catching a bus, that's just the kind of man he was. So when he passed away suddenly, that was to this day the saddest day of my life. So if there's anybody who and he was a giver of a second chance and a third chance and a fourth chance. And if we're not for that, I would not be sitting in front of you today.
Wow. Well, it's touching that you honor him by dedicating the book to him. Now, George, you have a ton of sales experience, and a ton of sales management experience. And I know that I remember talking with you when we were first discussing this book, that you were sharing with me that sales training is one thing, management training is another thing, and that a lot of people just think that automatically someone who's a great salesperson is going to become a great sales manager. And boy, did you have some wisdom to share on that. So let's talk about why you wrote this book, why you wrote it, and who you wrote it for.
Well, let me tell you what was the motivation. Well, first, my first motivation is to help people. And if you're really going to be successful in this industry, in almost any industry for that matter, if your focus is on you and not on other people, you will not reap as much reward as you can. So um, it was an opportunity for me to help folks. But I had a sales assistant that sat outside my office, not far in, but far enough away that I could leave my door open during many of my one-on-ones. And little did I know, she was listening to my coaching sessions, and she came to me. Her name was Melissa. I put her name in a book. And she came to me and she said, I need you to know something. I said, what's that? She says, when you're doing your one on ones, I'm always hoping that you leave your door open. And I didn't even realize that. And I said, well, why? She said, because I've taken so many notes that I was not aware of. And she has said to me many times, you need to consider writing a book. And that's the first time it really caught my attention. And then one day, a couple, 2 or 3 years ago, I just started typing. And after 6 months of typing, a little before I knew it, it became a year. And my wife said to me, and we've been married for almost 23 years. She said, I've never seen you more focused on getting something done.
Hmm.
This was, I mean, I think the book is close to 40,000, well, 38, 39,000, 40,000 words. I deleted 9,000 words. I had to have a consultant because I didn't know what I was doing.
Well, and
And
let's
she
give a shout
suggested
out.
us.
Let's give a shout out to her, Kathy Fyock,
Um,
book coach extraordinaire. I tell you, we've had the opportunity to work together on a number of projects, and I am just thrilled that she had worked with you, and you guys had such great results. And of course, if anyone needs a book coach, we know exactly where we want to, direct people. So let's not leave that out. Now, George,
she's tough.
yeah, well, in the way she should be, right? Um,
Right.
let's talk about. I want you to give some opportunities to share some of the wisdom you've developed over the years. Um, you've had the opportunity to train numerous salespeople. What is a really common mistake that beginning salespeople, or maybe even experienced salespeople, make as they approach their clients or their job?
And let me share this. It happens all the time. And even with a number of seasoned salespeople, they go in and they spend their goal is to share their features that they have, that they feel will be benefits to the customer. They have a preconceived notion of what they believe they may need without really taking a deep dive and discovering, what's below the surface. They see, many times they focus on the tip of the iceberg, but they do the same thing that happened to the Titanic. I've never used this as an example, but it's a good example. where they don't share with people or discover what's below the iceberg, and then you have the same results that they had with the folks on the Titanic, right? If I could use that as an illustration, um, it's all about, and I repeat it in the book 100 times in different ways. It's all about being a good listener and understanding needs, and really evaluating what your customer is trying to accomplish, and to take you out of it. If I tell my two sons who are successful salespeople, I say, if you go to work every day trying to sell something, you will never be successful in this business.
Mm.
But if you go to work every day thinking, well, who can I help, and this is how I can help them, then the chances of you being successful grows exponentially.
So I'm glad you brought up this the listening part, because there was page 95 of your book. You say, never interrupt your customers while they are answering questions and sharing information. You could cause your customers to stop talking when they were about to share the most critical information needed to help address their issues. You say silence is a very effective presentation and communication tool. Um, so you have another section in your book, um, where you talk about trial closing. In fact, you say trial closing is your sales presentation temperature gauge. Can you tell us what, and I've had very little in the way of formal sales training, so forgive me if I come across as ignorant, but can you explain trial closing and why it's such a valuable tool?
Trial closing lets you know if you need to take a detour. All right. Trial closing, like I said, I think it allows you to see where you are. If you're not an effective trial closer, you could have lost your customer 10 minutes into the presentation, and you did not realize that you lost them 10 minutes into the presentation. A trial close asks for an opinion. That's what it does. Watch this. Does this make sense? Do you see how I can help? Am I headed in the right direction in satisfying your needs? How have I answered your questions? If there is an issue there, you will find out really quick, because many times objections are no more than misunderstandings, and then get you right back on track. Never spend 10, 15 minutes, 30, sometimes an hour with a potential customer, and then you leave the room and you really lost them a long time ago. That's why asking good questions, listening, it's many trainers, most every trainer says the same thing. They say it differently. All right. We all do. All right. But you just want to, you want to understand where you are. And it'll put you right back on track quickly. So that's that. I mean, there are a few things more valuable doing a sales presentation than your ability to trial close. And I think I put in the book seamlessly, where they don't even realize that's what you're doing. And when it's done effectively, if you notice, I didn't put a chapter in the book called closing. That was done purposely, because when it's done effectively, closing becomes a natural part of the process.
I appreciate that, because I think there are a lot of resources out there all about closing, right? And really um, slick ways to get people to close. And of course, the customer senses that. They sense, oh, they're trying to close me. They sense the slick language, the you trying to back me into, or walk me into saying yes, and all of that. When I don't know, it seems like and maybe this is your point, is that if you've been listening well, and if you've asked the right questions of them, they're going to already have told you if they're closed. Yeah, you're going to know. You're going to know before you ever ask them for any sale whether they're buying.
You
Uh,
and there are, after thinking about, after I thought about it, there's a lot, there's a way to help move people there. For an example, it's not in the book. I probably should have put it on hindsight. And it's a great question. Can you think of any reason that we can't get this done next week? Is
right.
there any reason that, is there any reason we can't do it? And the reason I like that is because you ask for the order and you ask for the objection in the same question. If the customer says no, there's no reason, you're done. If the customer says yes, they got to tell you why. And in the book, I said it's always important to understand the why, though don't use the word why very often, only strategically.
Hmm. That's interesting. Can tell me more about that?
In the book, I share that why can be an effective question, but you need to use it very strategically. Why questions can be perceived as interrogating. Those are the questions that your parents use when you did something
Why did you do that?
that they felt was dysfunction.
What were you thinking? I've never heard those phrases ever.
Why? Now watch this. Watch this. And I've shared this with many people. Replace why questions with how questions. Just replace the why and put how. How is more adult to adult. Well, how did you make the decision? How did you do that? How does that make sense? As opposed to why did you do that? Why did you make the decision and why did you do that?
Hmm.
It's all many times perception. And at the end of the day, it's about developing relationships. People buy from people that they like.
Okay, that's very interesting, and I'm just thinking of it in terms of of selling a car. Um, and if you're the salesperson and you ask somebody, why did you choose a Honda Odyssey for your car? That actually causes them to maybe second guess. Whereas if you said, so how did you choose the Odyssey for your car? Then they're going to go, oh, well, I mean, we need the extra space and a friend's got one and we just lay blah, blah, blah. Whereas why maybe causes them to second guess. And they might go, you know what, actually, now you think about it, I'm really not sure, maybe we ought to go look at the Nissan options at the lot across the street too. Like, no, don't do that. Right. But,
it's 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 there are small nuances, all right. And there's a reason that I call salespeople sales professionals. If you notice that, I didn't use, very rarely did I use salespeople or account executives, even though that's what we were called back in my radio and TV days. But it's a profession, and it needs to be treated like a profession. In most all I have so many friends who are professional sales reps, professional salespeople, and all of them, to a person, are successful in what they do. There are some intangibles, some personality things. You got to be able to survive this game if you're going to survive long haul. And many people don't have the grit to do it.
hey, by the way, I never shared this with you. I have a good friend of mine in my Bible study who is a radio sales professional. And so if you don't mind, I'm going to give him a copy of
I
your
don't mind.
book.
Please.
And I think he's going to get a real kick out of that. Now, let's go back to the management part of this.
Yes.
And this premise that being a good salesperson does not equate being a good sales manager. Let's talk about that, because I know that this book is as much about sales management and sales leadership as it is about selling.
It is equally important as relates to the book. Um, the second chapter in part two is what I call the leadership myth, and that's every good salesperson doesn't make a good sales leader because it requires so many different characteristics. And the way that I position the change, it's difficult for some people to go from me to we. Because as a salesperson, though you are customer focused, but you are really focused on yourself. How me and my customer. Now, as a sales leader, you need to do that through a number of people. And that's difficult. You've got to understand that your style may not be the style of the people on your staff, but there's not one, and I'll put this in the book, there's not one style that's required to succeed in the sales game. Um, you've got to have the ability to take you out of it. It's not about you. In many ways, it's the same way you would do as it relates to your customers. You need to do that now with your sales team. In some ways, I never thought about it until this moment. But in many ways, they're also now your customers. How can you help them achieve their goals and objectives? A sales leader has to be a good nurturer as well. You have to be a good coach. You've got to understand where people are. You got to understand that though you set up this box where everybody has to play within on policies and procedures, but realize that different people react differently to how you communicate. There are some people that you need to love a little more to get it done, and there are some people you can push a little harder to get it done. And as a leader, you've got to be able to recognize the nuances and the differences in getting that done. It is, and in addition to that, you've got to satisfy the needs of senior management. So sometimes that can be difficult, but it's what makes sales leadership challenging. And I put that in a book.
No.
It's good, but when you, I always got I got a ton of enjoyment when my people were successful.
Mm.
I just did. I mean, we celebrated. We celebrate every victory. You know, I wasn't a leader who was ever punitive for mistakes, unless you made the same mistake more than once. I had a problem with that, but that's really learned. And most I was a leader for 29 years.
Wow.
I can say without a doubt that the majority of my sales teams were successful.
Excellent. Now, I
Incredibly
realized
successful.
we got all busy in this, and I forgot to tell people this book is available on Amazon right now, where you can pick it up in paperback and in Kindle. The Kindle's on a special launch price, so if you go now, and you'll find that if you're watching this as a recording, it might be up at its retail price. But please go pick up the sales sweet spot. Uh, Pick that pick that up there. It's funny, George, is I think about the sales experience I've had, and I did a fair amount of retail sales, and some kind of high end clothing sales when I was in college. And one of the things that always floored me was watching people who were really successful salespeople making making a pretty healthy commission be placed in a management role and suddenly earn less money. They earn less money because apparently there's no commission incentive, or it's not enough incentive. And then they work management for a while, and then they go, forget this. I just want to go back to being a commission salesperson. Have you seen that? Have you seen that trend happen a few times?
I've seen it a few times. You have got to have a passion to be a sales leader, period. And in the book, I actually said in the book, I had no problem with how much money my salespeople made. If they made a ton of money, that means we were a ton successful. I always trust me, I understand that a general sales manager, sales leader is also responsible for cost of sales. It's a line item when we do our budgets that there's a certain budget that you have that you put in your budget during this time. We actually probably in September when you're doing budgets, late September, early October. But if you were over cost of sales that you had budgeted, but your revenue was over 30-40%, I mean, we're both winning. So there are certain companies that will try to cut their commissions, because of success. I always had a problem with that, and I always fought that. And many times I won that fight. My senior leadership in most of the companies that I work for, um, they truly trust my opinion. Those are good leaders for me. Um, um, yeah, I mean, many times sales reps will make a little more money than their sales leaders, but
Yeah.
from my
Well,
perspective, the,
I've been there. There was a
and I mean,
time.
and don't get me wrong, we made money. I mean, I did pretty well.
Now, George,
So that wasn't an issue.
we've got just a couple minutes left, so I want to make sure to give time. Is there any a portion of your book that you want to read, or a special story that you want to tell, or a lesson you want to share before we sign off?
Wow. I had the tab on here, leadership myth.
That was the one I wanted
Yeah,
to ask.
yeah, yeah, no problem. Yeah, that was a good choice. There are so many things in here that I think is good information. So I'll give you one walking out the door. The difference between motivation and inspiration. And the reason I bring that up, because I brought that up in a meeting just a couple of days ago at my church. And in that meeting, they were really enamored about what do you mean, George? So I thought I'd share it. Said being inspiring. Inspiration is internal, whereas motivation requires an external stimulus. It stems from a deep desire to achieve a goal combined with your ability to connect emotionally. To inspire means to excite and encourage. Be an encourager. Talented people flourish when led by an inspiring, encouraging leader. The best leaders are those who build, nurture, support, and enhance. It's the greatest coaches there are. I'm not going to mention any names because that's somewhat subjective. Um, are those who don't motivate their teams to do well. That requires some stimulus, usually some reward. You're motivated because I want to make a budget. And because I make a budget, I make more money. But when you can reach your people and inspire them, when you connect with them emotionally, when you can truly be an encourager, tell you what happens. They want you to succeed as much as you want them to succeed.
Mm.
And that's when you become a team. And when you become a team, it doesn't matter what you feel politically. I put that in the book. I'm gonna share that before we get out here because of our political climate. I talked to that guy yesterday, as a matter of fact. I said, I didn't put his name in it. I said there was a guy that I worked with whose political beliefs and I were completely opposite, but yet we worked very well together. And the reason that we worked well together was not because we may not have had shared beliefs as it relates to that, but we had shared values and shared interest. And shared values and shared interests will supersede beliefs, though beliefs are strong. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
because people believe what they believe in. And I'll leave with this. Is what I shared with him, and he agreed. I wanted him to know it before the book came out. I said the way people disagree many times cause more conflict than the disagreement itself. So this guy and we worked together for probably off and on 30 years. We had a ball working together. He was fun, I was fun. He was highly gregarious, a great relationship developer. Though many of our beliefs were not the same and we had to agree to disagree, we still worked well together and helped to create a good team.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, George,
I'll leave with that.
congratulations. Congratulations on your book on the sweet spot. Encourage everybody to go to Amazon and pick that up in paperback or Kindle. And then, George, if people want to reach you specifically, what's the best way for them to reach out to contact you?
Yeah, but you can send me an email, right? It's the email it's in the book. Excuse me. Go online. They have a website. Sorry, it's the salessweetspot.com. The salessweetspot.com. You can that leads it gets you to my website, and all my contact information is on there.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you again, George, and congratulations on your book and on your launch. We're excited to see what it does today and in the weeks and months ahead. And most importantly, I'm excited to see it change lives. I'm excited to see it have impact in people's lives and in their livelihood. So, thank you very much, and away we go. Take care.